Thanks. Not too bright here. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Louis Vieira, Chairman of the HART Board of Directors. Please silence all electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. Welcome to the May 5th, 2025 Board of Directors regular meeting, which is now called to order. The meeting format is hybrid with board members physically present at the HART Administrative Office at 1201 East 7th Avenue, Florida Conference Room, and some participating via communication media technology. Please stand if you're able to do so. Join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Director Cameron Cepeda.
Here.
Director Hartfield.
Present.
Director Henderson. Director Hobbs.
Present.
Director King.
Present.
Director Knight. Director McAlpatrick. Director Mechanic.
Here.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Myers.
Here.
Director Niebert.
Here.
Director Schisler.
Here.
Chair Vieira.
Here.
Director Williams. Here. Director Wallstall.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Next is public comment. The HART Board of Directors welcomes comments from citizens about any issue or concern. Your opinions are valid in terms of providing input to the board members. When addressing the board, comments shall not be directed personally against a board member or staff member, but directed at the issues. This provides a mutual respect between board members, staff, and the public. The board has set aside a 30-minute period for public comments, as stated in HART Board Policy 210-4A. Speakers may sign up to speak either in person or virtually at meetings before 5 p.m. the day prior to the meeting. Speakers may also sign up in person the day of the meeting. The chair will call on speakers by name in the order in which their requests to speak have been received. When somebody is that
County staff, Hillsborough County staff, can you please mute everyone? We are in board meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see where I was. When addressing the board, please state your name and speak clearly. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Please refrain from any discussions on any matter brought up to board members during public comment until after all public comment has been accepted. Staff also received public comments via email titled Vote Yes on Charter Changes, total of 257. These have been shared with the board prior to the meeting and are printed for the board's attention. And I know we have a board council. Go ahead, ma'am. Comment.
New system, sorry. Members of the public have the right to speak on any relevant issue during the public comment process. However, I would like to remind that certain items may be rooted in contract, pending legal recourse, or prohibited by this board's policy, which prohibits involvement by the board in the normal employer-employee relationship between the CEO and any other employee or employee union of HART. While the public could address those matters, board members are advised not to discuss them during their meeting.
Thank you very much, Madam. Okay, now we begin with public comments. Now, we do have a general rule on 30 minutes. I've done the numbers and we're going to be about 15 minutes over. I'm 100% fine with that. I'm not going to make people sit here and wait an hour until after the meeting. However, and again, if any board members object, please let me know. However, the rule is up to 3 minutes. So I would ask folks, you don't have to use all your 3 minutes. If you want to come up here and tell us what's on your mind and in your heart, have at it. That's wonderful. We're here to listen, but you don't have to use all your 3 minutes so that we can stay as close to this as much as possible. Again, I'm glad to let folks go over. That's fine. Any comments from board members? Okay. Thank you, board. First, we have Mr. Jason Marlowe. I don't know if, oh, there you go. Next. And then after Mr. Marlowe is Nicholas Moses Melin.
Morning. Morning, HART Board. First, I want to publicly thank Councilman Schisler for his leadership last month. I thought the presentation was amongst the best I've seen in my years in government. And it perfectly illustrates the reality that HART is upon the precipice. Ladies and gentlemen, it is extraordinarily easy to say no. It takes almost no effort for you to say no. But saying no would be an abdication of your responsibility to help citizens and visitors in our community get around. Well, it might be very easy to say no new taxes and wash your hands of this. You'll have to look in the mirror knowing that you are allowing working class people and those with disabilities to suffer needlessly. I'm here to encourage this board to dig deep and recognize that for this community to succeed, it must continue to sacrifice a little for one another. This society we've constructed cannot continue to endure if we are incapable of seeing the value of sacrificing a dollar here or there for one another. We are all, in fact, on this sinking ship together. Last meeting, I implored this board to no longer accept mediocrity, to make manifest our aspirations to become a world-class community. I cannot stress enough that for that to happen, it will require us to develop robust and reliable public transportation. If you, like I do, believe Hillsborough County can be more and do more, I ask you to support ultimately allowing the voters to decide. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next is Nicholas Moses Malin.
Hi, good morning. Nicholas Mullen here. As eloquently said from the previous presenter, I'm just showing up to, put another face to some in the Tampa Bay area who would like increase and improve our transit. I would like to increase the mileage. I'm sorry, I'm just checking my notes here. To increase funding, including through a mileage increase and transfer the $5 million ferry grants by Nellis. I'm sure there are other presenters here who are going to be much more eloquent than I am in terms of being able to tell you why they should do that. But I want to say that transit is what makes a city great. It's what makes a city. It's what helps people get around and do more. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Next is Mr. Angel D'Angelo, followed by Ms. Fran Tate. Mr. D'Angelo, go ahead, sir.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Angel D'Angelo. I live here in Ybor City, and I'm commenting today to ask HART to vote yes to amend the charter to just allow for the people to have the millage increase. Transit is the lifeblood of an effective city. It's not only great for the residents, it's great for businesses, and it's great for visitors. It makes Tampa a better place to live, a better place to work, a better place to run a business, and a better place to visit. So I really think we need to take this opportunity now before we close the door yet again. You know the people of Hillsborough County and Tampa are hungry for these changes. We have been fighting for transit improvements for years. So please allow us an opportunity by voting yes on this charter amendment and allowing for millage increases. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Ms. Tate, followed by Mr. Charles Loeb.
Good morning, board members.
Good morning, ma'am.
I am Fran Tate, president of the Jackson Heights neighborhood.
Oh, Ms. Tate, you are muted somehow. Can we help Ms. Tate out? Ms. Tate, can you hear us? Ms. Tate? Oh. Yeah. I'm going to see if I actually have her phone number. I don't know if I do. I don't. We want to hear Miss Tate, and I see her lovely dog there. Poor thing. So there's no way anybody have her number? Thank you, Commissioner. Feel free to call her. That's fine. Let's go ahead and go forward to Mr. Charles Loeb. Mr. Charles Loeb is here.
Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. Some quick comments. Number one, I tried to help board member Schisler
Mr. Loeb, just 1 second, if you could stop the clock. Ms. Tate, can you hear us? Okay, did you get it? Okay, go ahead, sir. I apologize. I just don't want her to think we're being rude to her. Go ahead, Mr. Loeb.
1 second.
Mhm.
In that envelope is $5 bills. I will explain to you. I want them passed out, 20 of them, and I will explain to you why shortly. First of all, I wanted to tell you that I went to Councilman Schisler, and I've been trying to help him think of putting HART in terms of a world-class organization, which I think you all have the potential to be, as well as very entrepreneurial. I also wanted to make a mention that if you want to go the sales tax route, that I did also put in some points about, what they did in Miami to make it successful. And a warning that you would not be in this mess today if the Hillsborough County Commissioner voted to go Hillsborough. Now, also, and I would think if we'd also do not have approval from the state legislature that, it's mute. I don't want them to play the same game they already played with us. Now, you all are wondering, I'm sure, about the $5 bills, which I want to pass out. Frankly, this is your money. That's why I passed it out. Why is this your money? Because this is the money I got from Richmond. I put kind of a euphemism for greetings from Richmond, Virginia. That's my check. I promised you all that I would bring you the money, which I have, and I want you all to keep the rest of it. And because of the fact it is not my money, Jewish law prohibits me from taking stolen money. That's what it is. The taxpayers voted here in 2018, so the money would be yours. So I'm merely returning stolen property to you all, so you all can have it and do what you all want with it. The reason it's a $5 bill is even a bigger principle, besides the idea of all the fives that seem to be going around today. It's because of the fact that it has to do with government of the people, by the people, and for the people, not perishing from this earth. I do not think, and for those of you that have a direct thing with the state legislature, that Abraham Lincoln would be thrilled about what they did to manipulate the situation to do what they wanted with the money. It's up to the people. Hillsborough County people voted for it, and it is your money, and I'm returning stolen property to you, and I thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir. And let's round up those Abraham Lincolns and give them back to Mr. Lowe, please.
No.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. We appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, next, Ms. Tate, is she ready to go?
Can you hear me, Board Member Vieira?
Yes, who is this?
This is Ms. Tate.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am. Your microphone had gone off, so we didn't want to miss what you said, so go ahead, ma'am.
I appreciate that so very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir. Good morning to all of you. I am calling in, first of all, I am Fran Tate. I am the president of the Jackson Heights Neighborhood Association. And the bus route closest to me is bus route number 5, which I have used in the past. And I'm calling in today just to support and to encourage you to please, in your charter, please increase the millage from a half millage to a whole millage, and allow the voters to make the final decision on if it passes or if it doesn't pass. But we definitely need more funding for transportation. I walked my entire boundary for which the city has assigned to us, and there are so many bus stops that do not have the proper coverage. I see senior citizens, I see young kids, I see moms sitting out there in the hot sun. I did advocate in 2021 for awnings, and you guys did bless the area with 2 brand new bright shiny awnings coverage, but we need more. We need more all over the city, and I'm definitely going to advocate more for the East Tampa area, which I love and will fight for each and every day. But please, as you take your vote today, increase on your charter the millage from 1/2 to 1, please. Thank you so very much for taking my call. Have a great day, all of you, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Ms. Tate. We appreciate you, ma'am. Next is Dr. Neil Menimala. He's here. There you go, sir. And then followed Dr. Neil is Casey Noon to be ready next.
Good morning, board members. My name is Dr. Neil Manimala. I'm here to urge you to vote yes on this charter amendment. I'm a physician, and I've spent years caring for patients in East and South Hillsborough County, the very places where this county is growing fastest and where public transit is needed the most. I speak to you today not just as a doctor, but as someone who believes that the future of our county will rise or fall by how we choose to connect our people. And like in medicine, there are moments when keeping things as they are is no longer enough. When it comes to HART's funding crisis, we have a diagnosis. We know the treatment, but we also know that time is not on our side. The Florida Department of Transportation said it clearly. HART is, quote, efficient despite budget constraints. And its top recommendation, to increase funding. This system isn't broken. It's underbuilt, underfunded, and under pressure. And the weight is falling hardest on those already stretched too thin. I've watched patients miss appointments, not because they didn't care, but because the bus didn't come on time. I've heard of families in Waimama walking half a mile to a stop, only to miss the bus by 1 minute and wait another hour in the heat. And in that hour, what's lost? Sometimes a job, sometimes a diagnosis, but it's always a lost opportunity for a chance to move forward. This isn't just about a bus. It's about who counts and who gets left waiting. Changing the charter doesn't automatically raise the millage. It simply opens the door so voters can decide for themselves. I know how my patients will vote. The ones who walk farther, wait longer, and carry more than their share. So I say this to you with humility and conviction. Change the charter. Let the people decide. And let ours be the board that didn't flinch when the moment demanded courage. The board that opened the door to dignity, to possibility, to Hillsborough County that moved forward, letting its people lead the way forward. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Next is Casey Nguyen, followed by Laura Lawson.
Good morning. I'm Casey Nguyen, and I don't speak as nicely as everybody else. 1979 is my understanding the last time the charter was updated. And when you consider the amount of decades that have gone by since then, you got to remember that there's going to be another probable series of decades till the next one. So in order to accommodate all of the growth, because the population has doubled since then, and the national directive from the White House is that we're going to bring all of the industry back to the United States, and we're going to need to have the infrastructure required to do that. And if we're not going to be able to support that, then we're not going to be able to continue our growth as an overall community. What was I saying? So yeah, we need to allow for the maximum number of opportunities to facilitate public transit. I know that there's an idea for sales tax concept, but if we rely on that entirely, then we could end up with the same thing that I've had voted on twice, cut down in the Supreme Court. The more options, the better. So I'm supporting the idea to raise the millage to 1 and fund it that way. Specifically because I know that even if you did that through just the non-homesteaded properties, i.e. the businesses and the rental properties, that alone would be a significant amount of income. Now, the major building that's closest to where I live, the USAA building up on 75 Bruce B. Downs, they bought that in the 90s and built it, multi-million-dollar complex. Can't fault them for this because in 2018, we voted against raising the cap on property tax increases. So, but it is worth pointing out that that's saving them something like $40 to $60 million a year in property taxes, that they have not had a directly matched raise in property taxes because of the cap. So if you're going to look to secure resources, I think it's only fair for the major companies in our area to provide resources for their employees to make it to work. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Laura Lawson is next, followed by James Shirk.
Good morning. My name is Laura Lawson. I'm an attorney and I've been a resident of Hillsborough County since 1997. I'm also a bus rider and I also own and have a license and am healthy enough to operate a vehicle. I want to talk a little bit about people who are not as fortunate as I am. When I get up and I decide what I'm going to do during the day, I can make a choice. Is the bus going to get me there in time, or do I need to take my car? Over the years, I worked for about 14 years in the juvenile dependency court. That's the court that handles foster care cases. That was when I first learned about what is wrong with our bus system. In those cases, parents have had their children removed from their care. They're required to do what's called a case plan. It requires them to engage in many activities that you would want to see a parent who's had issues engage in: therapy, individual counseling, anger management, substance abuse treatment, all these kinds of activities. Now, we've built our county in a way, we talk about it a lot, how we built it so spread out. So what I would see often is that parents would miss the bus because the bus only comes once an hour, maybe only once a half an hour. Maybe they get to their transfer, but that bus is early or late or behind. And I want to tell you, this is not the fault of the drivers. This is not the fault of the agency itself. It's a problem with funding. And we know that because the Florida legislature told us exactly that. So by having an underfunded bus agency, which there's really no question about whether this bus agency is underfunded, there's no question at all, we're actually contributing to the breakup of families. Now, here's another example that I can recall from this time back when I was in trial court all the time. There was a sandwich shop downtown, and there was a lady that had been working there for a couple of years. She was a single mom, and she was up for a manager position. But you know why they didn't want to give it to her? Because she took the bus every day, and they wanted their manager to have a car. Keep in mind, she works downtown. So, those of us who have cars, we really need to realize that while to us, a bus agency that's adequately funded might seem like a nice thing to have, to a lot of our residents in Hillsborough County, it's an absolute necessity. And we need to consider that. And we absolutely should amend the charter.
Thank you, ma'am. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
your thoughts. Next is Jim Shirk, followed by Beth Alden.
Thank you, Councilman Vieira. I'm going to talk about a different approach here. As many of you know, I used to live in New York City, and there's a difference between Manhattan, New York, and Manhattan, Kansas. The difference is transit-oriented development. Land prices in New York are quoted on the square foot. Land prices in Manhattan, Kansas by the acre. The difference is transit. The thing is, you can't have transit without funding. We need funding to make transit a viable option in Hillsborough County. And if we base our funding on sales taxes, it's going to hit the poorest among us. If we base it on property taxes, it's actually going to increase the value of the land that's taxed. In other words, if you pay more money, if you increase the millage to 1%, or to 1 mil rather, that money can go into expanding and improving the transit system and improving the value of the land. So don't let a knee-jerk reaction to taxes blind you to the fact that raising property taxes can lead to cascading upward value, not downward value. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Ms. Alden, our former TPO director, is here, followed by Adna Curioso. Go ahead, Lee.
Good morning, board members. Beth Alden, retired urban planner. And I'm here to ask you to begin the process of asking the voters of Hillsborough County, Temple Terrace, and the City of Tampa for a modest increase in the property tax. We've starved our bus system for decades, and I've unfortunately gotten to watch a lot of that with cut after cut. Over the years, I've watched one of your previous planning directors say she shed a few tears every time she had to do another service cut, and service cuts lead to ridership reductions, which lead to more service cuts, and it's a downward spiral. And I don't have to tell you that thousands of people in this community depend on HART for access to jobs and schools and medical services and everything else that they need for their lives. And this is personal for me now because my father can no longer drive due to a brain injury that he had a few years ago, but he has got it together enough to ride the bus. And so he can go out and get groceries for my mother because that bus is there and it's available to him and he can actually find his way home. HART is one of the most underfunded systems in the country per capita. A previous report, and this is even a few years ago, showed we don't provide as much service as Sheboygan, Wisconsin per capita, or Knoxville, Tennessee, and things have only gotten worse since that report was done. And survey after survey of our residents right here in this county has shown that our residents believe that they deserve the basics of infrastructure. They believe that they deserve their potholes to be filled and their streets to have, safe facilities on them, and that we should have bus service to essential destinations. Whether that particular resident actually rides the bus or not, they believe that we should have that because maybe their neighbor needs it, or maybe their teenager needs it, or maybe their elderly parent needs it. And you have some difficult choices in front of you, whether to cut back from the already very bare bones service that we have, maybe stop serving some more areas entirely, or propose a tax increase. And that's not to be taken lightly either, to ask people to contribute more. But this is something that's worth it. It's worth it to all of us here in this community. And so I urge you to begin the process of asking the voters to decide for themselves whether they want to invest in our community's future together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you. Ms. Curioso, followed by Elvin Marti. And if I mispronounce anyone's name, please excuse me. Go ahead, ma'am.
You got mine right. It's fine.
Thanks.
Hi. I am here, like so many other people are here, in reference to agenda item 8, I believe. So the fact that there are so many people here today speaking about the same issue is a clear sign that you have public support for this. And I know we're in a time right now where people are very worried about their finances and people are very worried about money. But I think people are also very willing to turn to each other and willing to bridge that gap of like, okay, so we need to build community resources. And this is a very, very, like they said, modest increase in just a bare minimum of some sort of funding. And I do believe HART is doing the best they can with what they have, but when it comes down to like the nitty gritty of it, we need money, we need funding for this. And this is not the only thing that can possibly bring in money, but it is one very small step towards that. And this isn't even, us asking you to increase anything. This is us asking you to let the people decide what they want. And clearly, a lot of us do want this. So we're just asking, let us vote on it. Let the people decide what they want, and we'll go from there. But the issue with Tampa right now is that we are continuously growing. There are so many people coming to Tampa because they want to be here, but we are so disconnected. And one of the disconnects is public transit. People need options of how to connect with each other, how to connect with other people. And we don't have the infrastructure to support the growth that we're asking of this city. So all we're asking is just to open one avenue of possible income. And we can discuss other things down the line. I want us to have a community that is invested in connecting to each other. But this is one step in the possible direction. Just let us decide for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Marty, followed by Mr. John Green. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, board. Thank you for taking your time to let me speak. My name is Alvin. I represent ATU 1593 for HART Customer Service Department. I have a little situation and I'm bringing it to the board because I have tried to speak to management and I have no resolution. I sent an email. First of all, you guys signed off on a contract, right? So the contract is binding. If HART's not following the contract, and I'll make you guys aware of this, come on. We took months and months to negotiate a contract. First of all, HART customer service hours have been implemented longer. Now we're open till 1 o'clock in the morning. We used to close at 5 during the weekend. At 8 during the weekend now, and 9. So we're now open till 1 o'clock, 7 days a week. That added 3,100 hours on the department. Just by that alone, we should have gotten an employee. We should have gotten something. You can't just add that kind of hours into a department and not expect to have, another employee or another body to cover those hours. Second, when we last bid, I brought this up to management again. They moved forward with the bid. That's fine. We're working together. We'll try it. But now I got a vacation relief that was not agreed upon. That is not part of the contract. So you add 3,100 hours, and now you tell me that you're going to take one employee and you're going to move them around. You're going to move this employee around. Just tell them, hey, tomorrow you're going to come in at this time. But the day after that, you're going to come in at this time. How is that good working conditions for the employee? Come on, guys. Let's be reasonable. We are here to work for HART. We're here. We put in the time. We take, extra effort to come in and make sure that those shifts are covered, to make sure that we provide good service for the people. But if the employees aren't treated in a manner that they feel that they're being treated like a person, that's bad. So all I'm asking is take a look at this. Because I sent an email a month ago. I'm still waiting for the response. I sent it to upper management. I sent it to the directors. I sent it to my manager. I sent it to the head of human resources. No one has responded to an email that I sent on April 4th. I did a public record request because they said that it was a new policy. I asked for the policy to be given to the employee. I asked for the policy to be given to the union so we could look at it, make sure it didn't violate the contract. That didn't happen. Scott, I'm still waiting. How is that possible? We just negotiated a contract. The contract is not even printed out. The contract hasn't been given to the employees.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your time. Next is Mr.
Thank you.
Green. Yes, sir. Thank you. Followed by Letitia Jones. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning. While historical data is good to strategize for the future, what I realized during the last presentation from the board member is that he said he sat through 6 or 7 CEOs since he's been on this board. It's not a public issue. It's not an employee issue. What's wrong with the previous boards that you had to go through 7 CEOs, right? And then talk about you need money, right? Is that an oversight on the previous board members, right? Because that was his statement during his presentation. For example, paratransit, $1 million to $4 million going to yellow cab, but you cutting back on the employees. You taking money out of their mouths. If you good management, if you managing your money well, you'll maximize your employees. Didn't you train the bus operators to assist the paratransit, right? You did that. It was mandatory meetings for the bus drivers. And you raised the paratransit pay equal to the bus operators. There's no classification now, but it's written in the CBA. So good management CEOs, historical data is not about the taxes. It's about money management. And I'm just going to leave it right there so that you can think about it as a board, right? Maybe you need to do, instead of hiring accountants to look over your book, hire a fraud auditor, right? I know one personally, right? So that you could really understand what's going on with the management of these funds, right? You don't have enough buses. That just didn't happen. It takes years for that to happen. You don't have enough paratransit vehicles, but you're talking about getting 31 vans, right? I think we're too late to try to show up. Let's try to manage the money correctly and fix the paratransit. Give the workers the money first before you start subcontracting.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Letitia Jones, followed by Karen Peebles.
Good morning, board, to the chair, Mr. Drainville Board of Directors. I'm gonna speak quickly because I have two foes. As a taxpayer of Hillsborough County and you want to raise the property tax, I feel some kind of way about my property tax being high, and it's just plain land. You don't do anything on it. It's just land. You don't service it, no sewer, and you want to go up on my property tax. Now, if that happened, I'm gonna be an advocate in Plant City that buses run to Plant City. So y'all gotta be very careful how y'all, when y'all say Hillsborough County, that includes Plant City. My name is Letitia Jones. I am the president of Amalgamated Transit Union Local 1593. I stand for the extraordinary men and women who is the front line of this organization. I come to ask this full board for an external investigation on HART management. The morale of employees is extremely low. The attendance of employees is bad. HART has become a toxic workplace. Operators' health is declining due to the stress level of work, the disparity, harassment, the retaliation, and the disrespect from management. Employees have filed EEOC charges. We never get a resolution to any of these complaints. When operators file EEO complaints, retaliation follows. We all have a right to come to work and be treated equally and with respect. Managers issue NOIs. Managers hear the hearings of those NOIs. The manager director hears the grievances. The managers directors hear all of that. Where is the fair treatment? Let us clear this up. Not all managers, let me clear this up. Not all managers are difficult and disrespectful, but some of them make it hard to work there. Thank you, board.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you. Karen Peebles, followed by Abigail Ebersole.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Peoples, and I'm here to allow you to understand that I missed board meeting last month due to the fact of your upgrade. Everything looks very well. But let me let you know something. You also have to upgrade the hotline of the community riding the bus. As you all know, and I've always said, I ride the bus all the time. But you now have graduates, students who are graduating from school. They are going to be riding the bus. They're going to be looking for jobs. They're going to be looking for this, and they're going to be looking for that. They're going to be having to go out for their parents and go out for their younger siblings. They're going to need the bus. The bus in Tampa is growing. We need to grow with them. I agree with everything what everybody said before me. But you all need to understand that I brought this yo-yo today. And I brought this yo-yo. I was going to yo-yo because I'm good at it. But my arm is killing me. I'm in pain. But here's what I want to say. You cannot yo-yo people's lives. You cannot yo-yo the livelihood of people and their families. And that's what you're doing. In tennis, you can't play tennis without a net. You have to have a net. Serena Williams played many times with a net. But my thing is, we have got to understand, you all are not riding the bus. And that's good. But we are a lot of thousands and thousands of people of all nationality is riding the bus. And we need to come up better. We need to let these drivers, customer call service is doing a great job, but we need to do better. We need to do better by our drivers. Their morales are very, very low. I rode with one this morning. You don't even know what the traffic is out there. People cutting all in front of them thinking that they have more rights than the bus drivers. Let me let you know something. I'm going to keep coming down to this board meeting 3 years more until we all get it right. I pray for all of you every time I pray, and that's all day, because I want you all to make the right decisions. You have families as well, and I pray for your families. I've had a lot of things go on in my family last month, but let me let you know something. We have got to come together as a community for the right ways of delivering people from point A to point B, the point Z, okay? And if we don't do this, we're gonna fail the people in our communities. I want you to understand this is very, very important.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Peebles, we appreciate you.
You're
Next,
welcome. And
yes,
I will
ma'am.
be back next month.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Ebersol, followed by Humaira Afzal.
Hello, my name is Abigail Ebersol, and I'm here today because I want to share a story with you. So at the beginning of March, it was my birthday, and I decided that I really wanted to introduce my family to public transit. It was a great experience. We got on the bus, took Route 1, and were able to go out to dinner. But we have a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old, and since that day, my 2-year-old wakes up many mornings and goes, "Ride the bus? Ride the bus?" He loved it so much. And truly, I have taken the time to look in the mornings to see how long it takes us to get to his school on just a regular day. So it takes about 15 minutes to drive there, 4.5 miles. To bike there, it takes about 30 minutes, but to bus there, it takes over an hour to bus. And that would mean waking up a whole hour earlier to make sure that he's fed, dressed, and ready to go to be able to then get to the to bus and then be able to make it to school on time. And so I really want to be able to offer my children an opportunity to be able to, as they grow up, to be independent, that they don't have to have a car, that we don't have to buy another car in the future, or to be able to require them to meet certain expectations to just be able to get around. But I really do believe that if we can vote yes to be able to increase this, to change the charter and increase funding for this, to allow the people to decide, that really is going to make a difference for all of the employees that work here, for all of the different people who ride the bus regularly, and for those people who do want to choose to ride the bus, who do want to be able to not have to take an individual vehicle every day to either work or school or wherever they are going. So please, I urge you to make this change to the charter. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you. Humaira Afzal, followed by Daniel Lazarus.
Hi. I just want to follow up on something that Abby just said, and that my 3-year-old granddaughter lives somewhere with an amazing bus system. And whenever I go to visit, we go everywhere on the bus. We don't need a car. Her parents get by on one car just fine. HART does an amazing job with the limited resources that it has. The problem is the absurdly low funding. Today, you can update the charter to allow the potential of a millage increase to fund HART up to $1 million. This gives a much needed funding option. It'd be a bit small, but a very, very important first step. If you don't vote yes, then that option is essentially closed until the 2028 election, which will be too late. By then, there won't be much left to save because there will have had been so many significant cuts due to lack of funds. Why is this so important? Many of the people before me have already spoken about this. People want a good bus system. People need a good bus system. And most importantly, people will use a good bus system. Look at what's happened with Fare Free Route 1. It's free, but it's also got the shortened headways of coming every 15 minutes, which is huge. Ridership has gone up in a tremendous, tremendous amount. This weekend, I actually spent a lot of my time talking with people about buses. I was all around at different events this weekend, showing them this QR code, talking to them about buses. A lot of the people who sent those 259 emails, I actually talked to a lot of those people. Not a single person said, I do not support that. The vast majority of them said, thank you so much. It's so good to see that people are working to improve our bus system. I would also like to emphasize that those people came from all over this county. They came from Temple Terrace, they came from West Tampa, they came from South Tampa, they came from Sulphur Springs, from Brandon, from Ruskin, from Wamama, from all over the county. They were old, they were young, they were somewhere in between, they were Black, brown, white. Your constituents want and need better public transit. Your constituents deserve better public transit. Please update the charter to allow a 1 millage funding so that we have more options. And for those of you who are primarily concerned about traffic, please remember the only way to reduce traffic congestion is to get cars off of the road. Buses are one of the most cost-efficient, effective ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Final four speakers, Dana Lazarus, followed by Jade Scott. And I thank everybody for a lot of folks going just under that time limit, so we're shaving that off. Thank you.
Good morning, board. Please vote to pass the charter changes on your agenda. I believe it's item 8.A. We want our voices to allowed to be heard. So I'm Dana Lazarus with Transit Now Tampa Bay. We have started organizing a couple months ago. I came and spoke to a couple other board meetings. At one event, we got over 500 signatures saying that people support an increase in funding to improve and expand public transit. Over the last 4 or 5 days, we sent over 250, I think it's 256 was the final number, emails to you guys supporting the charter change. So HART's funding revenue hasn't been increased from about $500,000 over the last 45 years since 1979. My understanding is that the state lets us go up to $3 million. Since for some reason we put our own cap in our charter, let's not kneecap ourselves. Let's put at least $1 million, at least, in the charter. The mission of Transit Now Tampa Bay is to improve and eventually expand public transit. But we learned from board member Schisler's presentation last month that we don't just need this number to restore service to pre-mission max days. And let's be clear, this was already an anemic system in 2018. And we need this number not only to go back to that anemic system, but this will prevent another round of mission max cuts in 2028. We may not have another chance to make these changes to the charter until after 2026. And by then, we wouldn't be able to put a millage increase measure on the ballot until 2028. That's too late to save HART. If we don't secure a dedicated funding source for HART, we will see another round of drastic cuts in 2028, meaning layoffs, wage cuts, route cuts, and more. Data in the state of Florida support this charter update. Allowing for the possibility of a millage increase is supported and recommended by the state. FDOT's HART Governance and Operation Management Analysis, published in 2023, stated that HART is a highly efficient system that simply needs more funding to provide the service our area requires. This is a low-stakes vote for you guys. The vote will simply allow for the possibility of an increase to $1 million for HART's funding, but does not actually implement that increase. In order to implement the increase, we will have to go to all the jurisdictions to get them to pass it. And we have to then get the Board of County Commission to vote on it, to put it on the ballot, and then it actually has to pass the general vote. So it is the HART Board's duty to provide public transportation for the citizens of Hillsborough County. This is not a left or right issue. It's a nonpartisan infrastructure issue. It's as much a necessity for the most vulnerable people in our county as it is a tool for economic development. You can be the infrastructure champions that we need. HART's Charter Review Ad Hoc Committee painstakingly reviewed the charter and considered expert recommendations for how to improve HART in order to put together its recommendations over the last few years. These are solid recommendations. Today, please vote yes on updating the HART charter.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Next is Jade Scott, followed by Alan Henderson, and then Julio Lopez was the last speaker. Go ahead.
Cool.
Hello, board. Good morning. I did not plan to speak today, so please be patient with me. This is going to be a little extempore. So I am Jade Scott, and I am a frequent bus rider. That's how I got here. In fact, I saw you, Councilman, my way on the fun trolley with the open doors. There are a lot of reasons I love the bus. I'm going to narrow it down to 3 for the sake of time. So the first reason is the independence it provides. I see so many people who are elderly, people who are children, people who are disabled, who are able to ride the bus and get around. Again, as somebody who does not own a car, it is a great thing for me to be able to get around into different parts of Tampa, be able to engage in that way. As several other people have said, it has really improved the lives of them and their families to have their children, their elderly parents be able to do such a thing. It's a real benefit. Number 2, this is more of a West Wing type of pie in the sky value, but it's no less, it's true. It does allow me to engage with the citizens of this county in a way that I otherwise would not be able to. A lot of us are siloed in our daily lives, like stays to like. So, I'm Black, I'm young. A lot of the people I know are Black, young, and middle class, but being on the bus, it really is a mix of people from all class systems, all values, all faiths, all languages. It really is like America's on that bus. You hear different kinds of people talking, just minding their business. And in a time where so many of us can be divided and feel so attacked just being out, not necessarily knowing who's who or what's what or what's going on, being on a place where we all are different, but we're all trying to literally get to the same place can be really affirming into that American dream that we all presumably buy into. But I am going to get less Aaron Sorkin on you. I'm going to go to something more practical. I also love the bus because I hate traffic. There are so many people moving to Tampa, and traffic is so genuinely awful. So being able to have people on the bus so that there are less cars on the road is particularly lovely to me. And I think it's particularly lovely to everyone who's also not on the bus. Traffic is bad. That's got nothing to do with you. It's just a real benefit. It also saves a lot of money. I work in food service as well as doing other things. The money is tight when the tips aren't good, but being able to pay $4 a day max and being able to get to where I need to go is a fantastic way to save that. Plus, you don't pay for parking. I just want to end with saying this. If citizens are the lifeblood of this great county that we live in, the buses are the veins. So just, vote to amend the charter and help keep that hope alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jade. We appreciate you. Next is Alan Henderson. And by the way, Jade, nothing wrong with a West Wing idealistic person. And Senator Jefferson Smith, going back 80 years. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, here we go. Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Mr. Chair and distinguished board members. And good morning, beautiful city as well. As a lifelong resident of Hillsborough County and an entrepreneur who's built businesses in our vibrant community, I stand before you today with profound respect for HART and the essential role you all play in shaping our city's future. My roots run deep, as do my commitments to seeing our community thrive, and the decisions before us today, the proposed millage increase and the transfer of the $5 million ferry grant to PSTA, represents core values that have guided my life's work and goals: strategic foresight, regional collaboration, fiscal responsibility, and ensuring equitable opportunity for all citizens, regardless of zip code or circumstance. History has consistently shown that the most prosperous cities are those that invested courageously in transportation networks during pivotal moments of growth. Tampa Bay stands at exactly such a juncture. Our region is positioned for unprecedented development, while economic realities make robust public transit increasingly essential for our workforce, our seniors, our students, and the businesses that drive our economy. The proposed millage increase represents not just a modest financial adjustment, but a profound statement about our priorities as a community. The increase would cost the average homeowner in Tampa less than $6 annually, while generating critical revenue to maintain services for the 3,000 plus residents a day who depend on HART. For over a decade, we've asked HART to do more with proportionally less, despite serving a rapidly growing population. This thoughtful adjustment represents community taking responsibility for our own mobility rather than accepting the blatant service reductions or waiting for federal intervention. As regards to the ferry grant, I approached the matter with sincere respect for all perspectives while drawing on my own experience building partnerships across traditional boundaries. I believe that transferring the $4.8 million federal grant to PSTA isn't serving an asset, but it's strategically investing in regional connectivity and the pursuit of concrete returns for Hillsborough County residents. PSTA and Pinellas County residents, I thought. PSTA is considering using these funds to purchase a ferry and enhancing the service between Tampa and St. Pete, creating transportation options that benefit citizens on both sides of the bay. These connections represent pathways to jobs, education, healthcare, and opportunities for Bay residents. I've consistently found that a principle my mom taught me growing up it still holds true. And she used to say, don't block someone else's blessing. True leadership, like the ones you guys demonstrate in this room, means recognizing that lifting others up simultaneously elevates our own community. And I know that Tampa's prosperity is fundamentally interconnected with the regions around us. I stand alongside the coalition of
Thank you,
respected.
sir. Sorry, your time is up. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. We appreciate your thoughts. Julio Lopez, our last speaker.
Hi, everyone. I'm Julio Lopez, but please call me Jules. I'm here to speak in favor of the amendment for the charter, for the HART's charter. I would like to increase the millage because I see that it is essential to meet the current and ongoing needs here in Tampa for public transit and community. I've ridden HART, to go to work. I've ridden HART to get groceries, but I've also ridden HART to, find my favorite ice cream shops in town, to find my favorite kava shops in town. I've used HART more than just survive, but to also thrive. And I see it as a vital, frankly, an easy and quick way to become acquainted with your neighborhoods and neighbors. I've only just recently moved back to Tampa since last year, so I've made it a point to use HART to get, the salt of the earth look of Tampa, to become acquainted with strangers who are now my neighbors and friends and more. But I see also that there's a need to improve HART, be it at the shelters, the stops, the service times, and what have you. And in that end, I see this real need present, and I want us to meet it together, both as riders, as the employees on HART, and as you all members of the board, because I see the benefit is not just limited to myself and to tourists and students, but also to the folk who live in Tampa and work here day to day and go to Gasparilla and go to Pride and Ybor and all these other things that make us want to stay in Tampa and live here for the long haul. So to that end, I ask that you please support me in my call for amending the charter so that we can increase the millage and just at least give me and my friends and neighbors the opportunity to bolster HART so that we can meet everyone's needs together. That is all. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you, Jules. Next, and thank everyone, that completes public comment. We thank everybody for their thoughts. Next is going to be approval of the minutes. Next agenda item is approval of the meeting minutes from the April 7th, 2025 meeting of the board, which are included in the packet. May I have a motion in a second, please? Motion by approval. Was it board member Myers seconded? Did I hear?
Second.
I'm a board member Knight, I think first, whoever. Let's a roll call, please.
Director Cameron Sapita.
Yes.
Director Hartfield. Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Hobbs.
Yes.
Director King.
Yes.
Director Knight.
Yes.
Director Mechanic.
Yes.
Director Miller.
Yes.
Director Myers.
Yes.
Director Niebrick.
Yes.
Director Schisler.
Yes.
Chair Vieira.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Wolstel.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, board. Next, the Finance and Audit Committee met on April 21st, 2005 and recommended approval of action items 4A through 4H and strike that. Action item 4I was reviewed by Litigation and Claims Committee and recommended for the board's approval. Are there any questions about this? And if not, may I have a motion to approve if there are no questions? Any motions?
Move for approval.
Board Member Myers is the motion, seconded by?
Second.
Board Member Sisler. Roll call, please.
Director Cameron Sapita.
Yes.
Director Hartfield. Director Henderson.
Yes.
Director Hobbs.
Yes.
Director King.
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Miller, Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebert,
Yes.
Director Schissler,
Yes.
Chair Viera,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Wallstall.
Yes.
Motion's passes.
Thank you, Board. Next on the agenda is the Comprehensive Operational Analysis Report. To our CEO, Drainville, you are recognized, sir, to introduce this presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning again, board members. So one of the observations or findings from the FDOT Governance and Operational Management Analysis is that HART could benefit from having a comprehensive operational analysis, or COA. HART has engaged WSP to conduct the COA. Cassandra Borges from WSP is here today to provide a status report, a summary of key findings, and service change scenarios. This was previously presented at the Operations and Safety Committee at the April 1st meeting. Ms. Borges?
Good morning, HART Board. It's a pleasure to be here. This morning, my husband asked me, when was the first time you presented to the HART Board? And the first time ever. And I had to say 2001. The faces have changed, but the system is still in need of changes. So we are here today to talk to you about the comprehensive operational analysis. This is a pretty standard study for agencies across the US and regularly gets conducted as a system overview of how efficient the system is, but also ways that the system could become more efficient. So in the factual assessment of the system, we wanted to look at improving service reliability in two ways. One is to look at customer satisfaction, that is specifically on-time performance, but also where do you think the system would most benefit from increased service? And also look at emerging markets, so areas of growth throughout the county that also might benefit from improved service. We're about halfway through this project, and I want to make it clear that the options that we're looking at today, none of them are actually what would finally get recommended. And by this, I mean this is a technical exercise to take a look at the efficiency of the system, but it is also very extreme in some of the changes so that we can see the effects of those changes. What we're doing today is presenting those options to you and those things that we'd like to take to the public. Those policy decisions that will come back to the board would be about frequency and other changes. Oh. Sorry, the online's not seeing it. Okay, good, excellent. So again, what we're doing today is looking at the options that we've looked at from a technical perspective and showing them to you prior to having a discussion with the public. There is no actual decision for you to make yet today. Does it take a while? Does it want to? Got it. Yep. Okay. So this information was presented to you the last time you saw an update, the COA, earlier this year. What our information is telling us about the general system at HART, although the bus ridership is lower than it has been before, the revenue hours are down much more than that. And that means that you're becoming more efficient, meaning getting more riders for the service that you're putting out there. There's definitely a latent demand for additional service, and that can be seen by the number of riders. If you return your service to 2020 levels, you could see an increase to almost 14 million annual rides. And so what that's saying is that although your ridership is lower, your efficiency is up. This is another way to look at it, and it's about the cost per passenger trip. With the amount of service that you're putting out there, the cost per passenger trip is declining and is still relatively good for a system-wide service. We did take a look at individual routes, and while there are a few of the flex routes that are performing less well, in general, your fixed route services are doing much better than your peers. Generally, when we look nationwide for a service that is underperforming, we're looking at ridership per hour at 3 or 4. Your lowest productivity route, the Route 31 in South County, is just over 8 riders per hour. And so while it is the least productive in your system, it is not unproductive. And so I want to take that into consideration as we talk about what changes might be made in the system. This is another look at your system in terms of what is performing locally for your local service. You see in the red the routes that are performing less well, and those in the green that are performing better. And again, I say less well because they are not unproductive, they're just less productive than the rest of the system. One of the biggest issues we found in the system was the number of routes that are at 60-minute level of service or less. And we've heard this before, when people have to wait for a bus in 60 minutes. If they've missed the bus, it is a very long time to wait. And so as one of the things that we will take a look at in this comprehensive operational analysis is putting more service on your major corridors that are listed here. As I mentioned before, one of the other things that we're looking at is how the county is growing. So putting service into areas that are getting more dense or seeing a lot of growth. And you see those in the Brandon area, Town and Country, with some very big growth in the USF area. So for overall, the system assessment is that the system is doing very well. It is very efficiently run, even though there are some routes that could be better. So the next part of the study is to start to make changes and see how those changes affect the ridership and the costs. So again, we took a look at this in 2 different ways, looking at customer satisfaction, focusing on on-time performance, and an investment in the core areas of the system. The other option is to look at future growth areas. So look at areas that are growing, and we just saw those in the last slide, and see how you could make those constituencies grow in service as the density increases. We did take the service changes and the service options to the operators. We think this is very important because they are your front line. They are the eyes and ears on the road. They really understand what's happening in the system and where the areas that can be improved and what areas are really have the potential to be unnecessary. And so we are taking a look at some of those comments from the operators in terms of some of the routes that are limited express services that maybe could be consolidated. So in this service change, we looked at a number of routes that I would call less productive, again, not unproductive, but less productive, and looked at if we eliminated or cut back on those routes and reallocated that service to other parts in the system, what kind of effect that would have. Again, this is a revenue neutral exercise, so there is no option for additional funds with these 2 scenarios. In the first scenario for customer satisfaction, this service primarily goes to the core. We eliminate the routes that are less productive, and these are generally in areas that are more suburban in nature, just by the access points. And then the service is put into higher frequency routes that are getting good ridership, and then also into the next level of ridership level services. In the second option, number 2, looking at future growth areas, We tried to even out a lot of the system outside of the core so that you're getting a minimum of 30-minute service for the majority of the system. In the first scenario, where we take services from different parts of the less productive system and put it into the core, you could see a ridership increase of about 10%. So this is not without effect on your current riders. So in those areas that you are removing service, you would lose that ridership, but you would gain it back, and then a little bit more if you put those resources into the center part of the system. One of the things that we found was we could not reallocate all of the hours back into the system because we didn't have enough vehicles. So with the limitations of the vehicles that you currently have in your peak fleet, you did not have enough for us. So we needed about 9 more vehicles to fully allocate the hours that we had taken away from those eliminated routes. In the second scenario, again, bringing those services back as the growth. And while you would lose service and lose ridership in the areas that were cut, putting them into 60-minute service to 30-minute service and spreading those services around doesn't quite recover all of the ridership that you lose. However, in this scenario as well, we were unable to reallocate all of those hours because of the lack of vehicles. So if you had 6 more vehicles, we could allocate the rest of those hours and put them into the system, and you could potentially maintain the ridership that you lost in other areas. We were also asked to look at some microtransit options, and we specifically looked in South County at those options in 2 different zones. We wanted to make it look very similar to what the number of hours that you were getting on the Route 31. So the Route 31 costs about $1 million a year to operate, and it gets just over 8 riders per hour. With a microtransit, you would spend about the same, but you wouldn't get as many riders per hour because the system doesn't allow that based on the number of trips that you would be able to take with vehicles and the type of trips that they are. And remember, the Route 31 is a fixed route service, and this would be more of a door-to-door type service. So your demand would be greater, but your ability for a single vehicle to make more than a few trips an hour wouldn't be possible just because of how the area is laid out. So while you would probably have a better service, it wouldn't cost you any less, but you would get less riders. So just as an exercise from a technical perspective to see, well, what if you didn't eliminate all of those routes that we mentioned before, so kept most of them, made some small changes to the HART Flex in South County, consolidated some of the limited express routes with the 24, the 25, and mix it with the 360. Those changes, those would be recommendations that we would make off the top. But if all the other modified routes were not modified and we used that pool of hours and just reallocated it, that would put that system at just where you were in 2020 pre-COVID levels. So this reallocation or new allocation would get you just about 23% increase in ridership, but you would need more than 30 buses to accommodate this new service. So again, this is not what we're talking about with the public, but just for your information about looking at if you had additional funding and you put it in the right areas, you could have a potential significant increase in ridership. So again, this is for information only and for your questions, but this is next steps is to go to the public and talk to them about what we're really seeing is core versus coverage, meaning if you put more service in the core, but you lose service in the outer areas. Is that something that is palatable for people, or does that impact them too much? So those are the kinds of questions that we'll be talking about with the public. Ultimately, we'll take the information that we get from you as the board, the general public, as well as the HART employees, including the operators, to develop a hybrid scenario for a full recommendation to the board. We can continue to look at opportunities to enhance microtransit, maybe pilot projects in the area, and see where they might perform best. So at that point, any hot takes, quick questions?
Any questions or hot
yeah.
takes? Any questions? Yes, sir. Vice Chair Wilson.
I would just want to say thank you. I mean, at this point, this kind of substantiates many of the arguments almost to the T that I've been making for 2 years since I pulled the HART's ridership list by route. I mean, it didn't really take me much more than basic math to analyze that a lot of these routes are significantly underperforming, largely because of the fact that the city of Tampa simply lacks a lot of density that it probably should have to support 15-minute routes at this point. So as we say, hey, we don't like all of the traffic in the city because of all the growth that's here. Well, it needs the growth to support a much more dense ridership level at these 15-minute levels, unless we just start dumping inappropriate amount of money from, as we heard from one of the speakers, Plant City, whom we will likely never be able to serve. So it looks like a lot of these comments came from, you said internal workshops. Is that the employees on page 14 on your service change scenarios? Who gave you a lot of these internal workshop comments?
So these were discussions with operators.
Okay.
So we took a look at the system. We said, here are the areas that we can either streamline routes. So some of the small changes, not going around the block to serve one thing, but streamlining the routes. We talked to them about that. Also talked to them about changes like to the 24 and the 25. And then what other routes might be a challenge to serve, and what other routes might be ones that needed some additional service.
Okay, thank you. And my only other question is on page 19 on these micro transit zones. I just want to understand these metrics that you provided in terms of the estimated annual cost. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that you're saying that at $2 million a year, both these two zones that you've identified could be fully funded based off of your analysis to support a micro transit system down there. It says 0.82 million for North Zone, 1.4 million. That's both the high end numbers. So I just want to understand those estimated annual costs. That's to provide what? The estimated level of service that you predict is needed down there to support it, or?
That is to support 2 to 3 vehicles and 4 to 5 vehicles operating in that area. So those limits are based on what you would likely be able to support down there, but your ridership would be lower than what you're already getting.
Okay. You're saying lower just because, I mean, what is it costing us right now for the buses that are going down there, I guess, would be an interesting variable to understand compared to what you're proposing.
Right, so the route that goes down there costs you about $1 million a year.
The 3 40-foot buses that are going to Brandon Mall?
That's the 31, the Route 31 that goes down to this area costs about $1 million a year to operate.
Okay.
Yes, and you're getting almost 9 riders per hour. What we're saying here is that for the same cost, you would not be able to get 9 riders an hour, even if you are at optimal capacity, right? So if your vehicles down there are running all the time, they always have somebody in them because of where the trips are going to go, and because they're door-to-door trips and not on a fixed route system, the vehicle would not physically be able to carry 9 people per hour or 8 people per hour. This would be the maximum passengers that you'd be able to serve with those vehicles.
I understand, but they're getting to their destination significantly faster than the current method, right?
Well, they're getting a door-to-door service as opposed to, so I can't say whether they're getting there faster. And I did say it would be a better trip, right? So it would be a more pleasant trip for sure. And then your demand would also go up because of that. Yes. So you probably would look at, in order to get the people who are going right now, you're looking at a $2 to $3 million investment in microtransit for the same number of people that you're currently carrying with the 31.
Perfect. Thank you. I look forward to hearing more.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your report. Thank you, ma'am. Okay. Next is our Chief Executive Officer's report. CEO Drainville, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. So we'll start off with a legislative update. After the April board meeting, I flew to Washington, D.C., where I had a series of meetings with key federal partners and champions of the public transit to promote HART and the future of mobility in Hillsborough County. I had discussions with Congresswoman Laura Lee, Congresswoman Kathy Casta, the offices of U.S. Senators Rick Scott and Ashley Moody, as well as leaders from the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, and the Federal Transit Administration. These officials have consistently demonstrated their strong support for HART and remain vital allies in our mission to expand and strengthen transit operations across the Tampa Bay region. Building and nurturing these relationships is critical to advancing our shared goals and securing the resources necessary to create more connected, accessible, and efficient transit for all. Moving on to financials, as reported in the April board meeting, was awarded the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award. I have a copy passed out to each of the board members at their seats of the actual budget book for FY25. Moving on to the Route 1, HART's Route 1 Fare-Free pilot program continues to attract riders. Ridership has maintained a growth on month-to-month basis. 4 months into the pilot, the ridership is growing by an incredible 40% when comparing from April 25 to April of 24. Additionally, the OTP has improved by 4% compared to this time last year. April is recognized as the World Autism Acceptance Month, a time dedicated to increasing awareness and fostering understanding for individuals with autism spectrum disorder and the broader special needs community. HART staff, along with the HART board members, participated in many community events, fostering awareness, acceptance, and accessibility for all. On April 8th, staff participated in the Tampa Police Department Sip, Smile, and Support for Autism event at Coffee Uniting People, a CUP, in recognition with the Autism Acceptance Month. HART Chair Luis Vieira, as well as the ADA committee member Raquel Pancho, were also in attendance and are big supporters of this great cause. Last Wednesday, April 30th at 1:30 at the REACH facility, part of the celebration, HART unveiled our new autism awareness bus designed to promote understanding and acceptance. The bus will travel throughout Hillsborough County year-round, serving as a mobile symbol of support for the autism community. The unveiling highlighted the importance of accessibility and partnerships like HART and realizing exceptional achievement at the community hospital REACH that makes a lasting impact in the community. HART launched a monthly new customer newsletter called the Heartbeat. This month roundup will keep you informed and connected with everything happening at HART, from services update and upcoming events to community initiatives and behind-the-scenes stories. The Heartbeat is your go-to source for the latest news on how we're working to move Hillsborough County forward. At HART, we're committed to transparency, engagement, and delivering an exceptional transit experience. The Heartbeat is one more way we're keeping you in the loop as we continue to evolve and grow. Some major project updates: the safety features added along the streetcar line. The entrances to the right-of-way of Channelside and Waters are receiving red paint to stop vehicles from driving on the tracks. The work is being performed by Kimmons Construction, who is under contract by the city of Tampa. New shelters. It's with my excitement, I share with you today that since the last update, HART has installed 11 new shelters in District 3, making a total of 49 of the 92 new shelters in that district. We also have an additional 13 shelters scheduled to be placed in District 3 this summer, and HART staff will be working with Commissioner Meyer's staff on some events. Staff will be sharing a presentation with the board for more details at the May committee and the June board meeting. And finally, just a kind of quick update on the Teamsters CBA negotiations. A representative from the negotiations team of Jackson Lewis will attend the May 19th Finance and Audit Committee meeting to brief the members on the next steps in negotiations of the CBA with Teamsters Local 79, and then the HART's board's role in future discussions. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Any comments or questions? Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate you. Next is the chair's report. I really don't have anything. I know CEO Dreamville talked about the autism awareness events, including with the group REACH. I believe there were really nice young people. We're going to have them over at City Council and to meet with the mayor and CUP. If anyone, any all familiar with CUP, the coffee shops that are staffed by people with intellectual disabilities, just wonderful, wonderful. They got one downtown, another one in South Tampa, and Greg Jones, an attorney with others, founded that. He's just a really nice guy. He is, I believe it is a deacon at the Bayshore Baptist Church. So I always call him the Jimmy Carter of Bayshore. So he's just a really nice guy. And I did want to say, I know we have board member sister here. Happy 100-year anniversary or birthday to Temple Terrace. Yeah, that's a big deal. I'm a Temple Terrace kid. My mom still lives there, as you know, so I love Temple Terrace. So that's it here. Next, we go to our HART Board Council for their report.
Thank you, Chair. Jan McLean, Gray Robinson Board Council. I just wanted to say one thing. During our public comment, we had a speaker who used as an example some currency that he passed out to the board, which was then recollected and given back to him in case anybody had any kind of questions as far as what happened with that. And I wanted to make sure that
Thank
that
you.
was said.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny.
Okay. And so to get to the slide presentation. Yeah. Wait. No? Thank you. I'm the boring one. 8, so the item 8. There we go. There we go. Okay. Thank you for your patience, directors. You know, when you put a lawyer in charge of presentations, it always seems a little bit more awkward than all of the technical folks. Jan McLean, Gray Robinson, again, your board counsel. I'm here today as a follow-up to the presentation discussion that we had at our last meeting in April. And before I get started into the presentation, I just wanted to remind everyone that what you had in your packets was the memorandum that had been previously distributed to you, which has the language proposed revisions in the charter. And what I have in my presentation today is the little snippets of those language, which we can discuss as we go forward. What I'd like to do is in a very, very short time frame, because I know that there's a lot of discussion and questions, is just to remind you of the different of the process and the basis on which you're moving forward. So as you can see here, we have the steps to revise the charter, which is grounded in statute and the original charter, both 163, 567, which was the creation, and 570, which is the special regional taxation district authority for the imposition of the ad valorem taxation and the process by which it needs to be adopted. So I'm not going to bore you with all of those. The summary of the steps to revise the charter, as you are aware at this point of time, is that we would have this discussion here. The board of directors would then consider the provision of the proposed revisions. You would vote. We would need a majority vote on the proposed revisions. It's up to the board, but I would suggest that we take each of the proposed revisions separately so that it would be distinct and we'd have the record as reflected what is either approved or not approved. Then the proposed charter revisions, if there are any that are approved, would be sent to each of the members to be ratified by their governing bodies. And with regard to the ad valorem taxation portion of it, that it would be the section that the county would have to approve. If the county approves it, it would then move on to referendum for the general election in November of 26 for the voters to decide by the majority vote. Now, as I said, we have 3 items primarily of issues. We have the board compensation, which we had discussed before, which would be the population increment that we had proposed moving, either keeping the same, reducing the representation by increasing the population increment from 150,000 to 250,000, which would result in 11 members on the board, or keeping the same and leaving it at 150, but making sure by the revision in the charter that it didn't exceed the 15 members. So that's one section of discussion. The other section of discussion, this is organizational, does not require ratification. By voters, doesn't require referendum. It does require ratification of each of the members. The second body of discussion would be the consideration of the board appointments and committee and participation. Proposed language that we have in there is that each of the directors would serve on a committee and as appointed by the chair. And also in response to observation of the FDOT report is that the appointing member be take into consideration any expertise, any special expertise that appointment to director might bring to the authority. That again is just something that would be considered by the board of directors and does not require it to be going to referendum. And lastly is the consideration of increasing the cap on the millage rate that's currently within the charter at 1/2 mil. The proposal is to increase it to 1 mil. The statute, of course, gives the authority for special taxation districts such as ours to go up to 3 mils. The proposal in front of you is for the 1 mil. That would require the majority vote of this board. Then it would go to each of the members for ratification and county approval. If we get through that part of the process and the county approves it, then it would be placed on the ballot for referendum. So it's a summary without taking you through each one of the words slides like I did last time. And I thought maybe I wanted to put it out to the board if there was a particular item you wanted to start with discussion, or Chair Schisler of the Charter Review Commission wanted to have any input at this point in time.
Oh, yeah, please. Yes, sir.
Oh, I got the right button. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. McLean. I kind of agree. Is there anything, let me start. Back in April, I had indicated that if any board members had any questions whatsoever, please share them. I don't know that we had any questions. So is there anything of any particular substance that we want to discuss? I know we're going to get on the tax issue, but regarding the other 2 issues, as far as the size of the board, Is this something that we can agree upon, keeping it at the 15, raising it potentially to $250,000, or 50,000 resident threshold for an increase? I don't think we really want, I don't know that we need to necessarily decrease it to 11 through attrition. I do believe that personally, after giving it a lot of thought, I think that the current makeup of the board at 15 gives a nice mix of population of the board, super majority to the county, so that because they have the biggest mix of the population, might be workable, might be doable. As far as the second issue is as relevant experience for the board, we're looking. We don't want people here just here to build a resume. We want people here to lead and to offer constructive comment and so forth for HART. And there's a rule that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. I know I sit on 6 committees, and there's people who sit on none. So I think it's just more equitable, and share your experience, share your knowledge, that this becomes something that we can work, that HART can grow with and utilize the experience. And then last but not least is the ever popular tax issue, which I know there's some deep-seated beliefs and theories on. So I personally would like to see if we get through the first 2 with relative ease, so that we could sit and spend the time that we need to spend on the tax issue. I don't know what the proper process for that is, to take a motion for each section, or I don't know. Somebody has to guide me on that.
If I may, I don't. Yeah, I would agree with that, board member Sister, which is, how about we just go through each of them? The first 2 we should dispose of relatively quickly, one way or another, and then we go on the big one, so to speak. If that's and I defer to you. Obviously, you've done the work on this, so is that good with you?
That
sir?
works for me.
Okay,
that
great.
works for me. Whatever's expedient.
If I could then, if we're going to start with the representation on the board, which would be your Article 4 Board of Directors, and what you have in your slide presentation in your packet is options. An option which is the reducing to the 11. So that would be a consideration offhand. It would be the 15 and holding it at the 15, or it could be that you leave it in the composition that it is right now. What you have additionally this month is a page out of the EDR, Office of Economic and Demographic Research, which indicates what the population numbers are on which this would be calculated. This is done on an annual basis. It doesn't, and it also has a column here. The second column is April the 1st, 2020 through April the 1st, 2024, shows the change. So to the extent that you might want to take into consideration the speed at which this would increase or not, the third alternate would be to leave the charter as it stands right now.
And for purposes, Ms. McLean, do you call on people for this, or do I?
I would rather that you'd call.
Okay, I'm fine either way. Okay. I saw Board Member Knight. Anyone else wish to speak on this first topic? I'm sorry, Board Member Wilson. Knight Wilson, go ahead, sir.
I'm in support of leaving it as it stay at 50.
Thank you, sir. Vice Chair Wilson, go ahead, sir.
I'm fine with the 250, but I asked the question last month and it wasn't answered, and I don't think I'm going to get a clear answer this way, but out of moving it to 250, I still don't understand how we get to City of Tampa at 3 when they have a population of 400. That would be 2. Go ahead. I'm asking for clarity.
If I may, and I think we kind of bumped into this inadvertently.
Okay.
If I'm understanding correctly, the original charter was set up so that all the members got 1. Okay. And then for each, another person for each 150,000.
Okay.
So that would give Tampa 3, Hillsborough, if I'm reading, because they're like 400,000 something. So they got 1 to begin with, and then for every 150, they got another one. So 1 to 150, 300 is another one. They're stuck at 2 right now.
Then,
So that's
then
3
Hillsborough
total.
County would be at 6 because we're over 1.5 million. So that's why I'm saying the math
That may
isn't
well be the
mathing.
math. You asked about Tampa. That's what I didn't do the specific math for it. Now, I think what confused everything was and I haven't been able to verify this. Plant City was in the original mix, and I don't know that if Plant City's numbers are or were included in Hillsborough County. They would be now, but I don't know that they were in the original calculation. None of us were here. So I have no idea as far as that goes.
So I'll say again, I don't have an answer and the math isn't mathing. So before we could vote on approving anything, it would need to be very clear. I'm fine with increasing the amount per people. I don't want too big of boards, but I do want to make sure that the 70% and almost probably now 71% of the unincorporated Hillsborough is represented properly on the board, particularly since we're in here today literally advocating to try and tax them more for this service. They deserve the supermajority representation. So I just want to make sure that whatever we're approving, that, and it's not, the language that's here is not clear to me on that's what we're doing. That's my only hang up on it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Any other thoughts? And by the way, if you're virtually and wish to speak, and I see Board Member King. Go ahead, sir. And I would ask before you go, sir, since I can't see everybody on my screen, if you're virtual and want to say something, just say, hey, Louis, that's it. Go, sir. And
I'm afraid I was premature on that, so I'm withdrawing my request now.
Oh, okay. Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Board Member Niebuhr, go ahead, sir.
I just want to, in the effort of trying to understand the math, because I too had some of those questions, when I look at the table that was provided to us at the end of the board meeting packet, am I correct to say that each member gets 1, and then for the population increment, whether that be the 150 that it currently is, or some other number such as the 250 that's being recommended, unincorporated Hillsborough has a population just over 1 million. So they start with 1, and then 1.08 million divided by the 250 would result in an additional 4 seats for Hillsborough County, resulting in the 5. And then as it applies to the city of Tampa, they too start with 1, and they have 406,000 from my memory. And that would result in 2, because you have the full 250 plus the major fraction. And this is where I am a little bit unclear, but the major fraction is defined as any fraction over 0.5. Am I correct in my thought with respect to the population increment?
I haven't heard the 0.5.
It is explained, and Jan McLean again, and just to help clarify from your questions, Commissioner Wallstone, Mr. Schisler, and Sir, the calculations in the slide that indicates the 15 you would still rely on 150, and it's just as Mr. Schisler said, in the charter, in the statute, every member gets 1. And so that's a given. Plus the state, the governor gets 2. So you would have no less than 5. So then you would take your chart, and for instance, as you had indicated, in the 1,081,381 in unincorporated Hillsborough County, divide that by whatever your population increment is that we're proposing. It would be 150,000. It would be 7.2 plus your 1. That would be your 8. So the county would have 8. You would do the same thing with each of the other members, and it does actually come out to what the board is now in consistency. And so I'm a little unclear.
Yes, sir, please.
So there is no fraction language though. So we'll go with the 250 based on almost 1.1 million. There's no fraction language that I've seen unless it's broke out in some statute. And if it is, I'd like to see that. we're at 1.1 million basically in the unincorporated. It's like 1.07 and growing. So right now that's 4 and change, which means that by the state's law, we get 5 plus the 1. So we would be at 6 on this proposal. Because we get 1 and then we have the 4 and we have over 4 now, which means a full another board member is 5. That's how the state laws works. That once you peak over 1 million, right? Over that next cap, we got 1 more. That was the almost year-long argument that I went through, is that we went over that that threshold, so we were entitled to 1 more.
And we added 1 last year, I believe.
So what I'm saying is that based off of that exact same argument that took me almost a year to get a result from, and I don't want to have to go through it again, is that we are still over the threshold. And in this math right now, we have our original 1, and then up to 1 million people based on the 250,000, we would have only 5. But we are over 1 million already, so we would have 6. That's literally the exact same scenario. And my God, please don't make me go through another year arguing the same point and have to get legal opinions until they come back with the exact same thing that was just debated for a year, of which I was proven right on. And we even had the county attorneys opine on it at that point. Mr. Drainsville, is that not exactly what I just went through to get Kelsborough County's next seat?
Well, that was the time frame, yes.
Yes, okay. So let's get a very clear answer today, because I don't want to vote and then we send it out through all the members for approval and ratification. Then I'm going to leave here. I'm going to go to the county attorneys and get them involved again. And then they're going to do the basic math with a calculator that we could do right now to substantiate, based off of the state statutes, that on this proposal, which should be very simple, that Hillsborough County would be 6 and not 5.
Okay, that's based on if we went up to 250,000.
Yep.
All right. So in your charter, in section 1, in Article 4, section 1, number of directors, in your current charter, it says each member shall appoint 1 director plus an additional director for each 150,000 persons or major fraction thereof. That's where you get your major fraction. And the definition of a major fraction would be over 0.5, which would send you to the next one up. So that's when you do the calculations, and that's what I'm having,
So then in this new mathematical equation, then what would we need to be at 1.125 to reach this major fraction?
1.125.
Yes.
You would,
Yes.
Is that?
We increased it to 250. I think if I'm understanding your question, if we moved it to 250,
Yeah.
then unincorporated Hillsborough would trigger an additional member once its population was public math is always a challenge, 1.125, or basically 250 divided by 2 plus 1 person is how I'm hearing.
So then in a couple years, are we capping this at 15? Is that what this language is saying right now?
that's one of the alternatives. And that's why I wanted to do the introduction, which was the 11, which was to reduce it, cap it at the 15, which would have language in there that said that your population increment would stay at 150,000, but whenever it rose so that it would trigger the additional, we would have the language that we have in there now is the last sentence where the population increment shall increase as the population increases or decreases, which wouldn't happen normally, so that it would be an automatic, almost like a CPI kind of a thing. Actually, the more I thought about this language, and I can see it on your faces, it would be less complicated to have the language remain as it is right now. And you, based on the research that we provided to you, it doesn't appear that the growth would support additional members within a foreseeable time frame. So you'd still be working with the representation that you have on the board now. So the third alternative
is to not do either one of the first two alternatives and leave the charter as it is. Or any other alternative. I'm not trying to preclude any discussion.
I know you're not. Go ahead. Yeah.
Keep in mind, we're not here to try to change just to change. We were asked to review, and this is one of the issues that was brought up to us. We don't have to do anything with it. We can keep this the way it is, and we've fulfilled our obligations to the FDOT study. This is just we're trying to do something with it, make sure that it's equitable and fair to everybody. So that's that. I'll leave it at that.
And Board Member Hobbs, before I saw Board Member Hartfield put up his hand a little bit a while ago virtually. Board Member Hartfield, did you wish to comment, sir? And then Board Member Hobbs.
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
So if I'm understanding correctly, Jen, please guide me on this. I think in the charter, there's what sometimes is debated as the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. I think once we get to 5 or 6 members representing an entity, then, supermajorities or whatever that may look like, then politics come into question, probably in a not favorable way. Extending on that, the state of Florida has, I believe, 22+ million people. So at 250 being our count number, the state of Florida would have 88 representatives on the board. If we're talking about the letter of a law or the letter of the charter, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct on that, Jen, or?
No, they were limited to 2 by statute, by the original charter. They were limited to 2 people.
So the county is there a express documentation of a limit for the county or for the city or for any other governing body?
No, only for the state.
Keep in mind, this is 45 years ago. Nobody knew what was going to happen in 45 years. So it's just a state.
No, I get it. So I think it's incumbent upon the board to kind of reason through what the spirit of their original charter was, as opposed to what the letter of it is actually saying.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Hobbs, go ahead, sir.
Thank
And
you,
then if
Chair.
I may, Board Member Miller, did you wish to speak as well? I mean, after? Okay, then Board Member Miller. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. So I guess my question in all of this, and Director Schisler, maybe you can answer this, but what is the problem we're trying to solve by changing this is really my question. Anytime there's substantial change, you've got to have the answer of why are we trying to change this? And, I don't know, is it because we have issues with the size of the board growing too large? Is it that we have issues with being able to get quorum? What's the main driver, other than you were asked to look at it? Like, what would be the main driver of us actually making a change on this? Thank you.
Well, to be specific, how big is too big? How big is big enough? After a while, it becomes like herding cats. Okay, and this is what, and again, we've had issues where we're trying to get a quorum, and not only with committees, but even with the full board, we've had issues in the past. We've had to kick the can down the road. So I mean, that was the main impetus, is to make sure we didn't get too big, and make sure it was fairly equitably represented.
Thank you, gentlemen. Board Member Miller.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is more logistics of what's happening right here. Is there a motion on the floor? Because there's an awful lot of discussion and we are not following Robert's rules. And so I think that's part of why we're just all over the place. I think we could probably.
And thank you for that, Madam. And pardon my ignorance on this. Robert's rules, does it dictate that we need to have a motion for discussion? We can't discuss the topic, or?
We're not in debate right now.
Right.
We're just discussing this language. But I guess, and the point is that if there's a motion made, I don't understand the language, so I'm going to vote no.
If I may, Chair.
Ms. McLean, then Board Member Myers. And if I may, Ms. Miller, you are finished, Commissioner Miller?
No, I was just going to say that it helps direct the conversation. I was not sure exactly what we were doing. So
Yes,
thank
ma'am.
you.
Mhm. Go ahead.
I was just going to follow up on Commissioner Wassel's. This was intended to be a presentation of additional information and answering of questions as what was put to myself and others from the last meeting. So we had not gotten to the point of taking an action yet, so that we would be in debate on whether we were going to have anything approved or rejected.
Thank you for the clarity.
Sure.
Yep. And my vision for this, as I proposed, was that we have 3 topics and we're discussing them all separately. So now we're discussing board composition, then we'll get to duties of board members, then the millage as I saw it. But Board Member Myers and Board Member Knight.
Right. I think that the concern is whether we want to do 150,000 or 250,000, whether we're going to get to 6 or 5. Because that's where the hang up is, really, on the population. And if we can determine that, I think we can move forward. Or we can remain as is.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Knight.
Okay, thank you. Or the 3, can we just go ahead? It seemed like the tax is gonna be pretty much clear cut, get that out of the way, and then move on to the other.
Or we could get this one out of the way and then move to that one.
Yeah,
But
but
I mean,
it's good. It's kind of like incomplete, so if we need to table that one.
Yes, sir. Board Member Schister, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Ms. McLean, clarify, we have 5 or 6 right now for the county.
Right now, we have 8 for the county.
This moment?
Yes.
Okay. So if we
have 8 for the county, 4 for the city, 1 for Temple Terrace, and 2 for the governor's appointments. So we have 15. So, and that's why I was saying, if you wanted to leave it the way that it is right now, we have just added the additional 1 for the county within the last year. And based on what is looking on the population growth, you wouldn't not necessarily be adding anything additional as foreseeable anytime soon. So you would be working with your 15 that you have now and your 150,000 population increment.
Okay, so if we change everything to 250, leave the current board composition to what it is, 250, then there's room for growth and everybody should be happy with board composition, right? If we leave it at if we're 8 right now for the county, okay, then 8 times 150 is whatever the heck it is, and then so the county's got the supermajority. If we take it to 250, we're not doing it for today, we're doing it for the future. So the county wouldn't change the composition. They would still stay at 8, and then when they hit, they wouldn't add anybody else until we hit 2 million people, round numbers.
So, and thank you, Board Member Schisler. So the way I see this is it keeps the composition as it is right now, but it limits future growth, correct? Yeah,
That's correct.
I think that's reasonable. And if we want to entertain a motion to that effect to see where it goes.
Motion, second.
Who made the motion? Was it, okay, Board Member Myers, seconded by Board Member Knight. And to state the motion, it is to keep the board composition as is and to limit future growth from the 150 mark to the 250 mark, correct? Yes. Okay. Any discussion before we vote? Yes, sir.
This motion is not going to make sense when we do grow, because how are you going to base it off of? Are you saying that? Are you sure we're at 8 and not 7? By the way.
Yes, 7.2 plus 1.
I guess
And
maybe I'm forgetting somebody on who should be.
If
here.
you're looking at the chart,
I was trying to count.
It's
it's
a little disconcerting the way the chart is set up, if that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to get canceled out and not be representative of the population later on down the road, but I think it's a moot point because I'll just handle the debate at the county once we get there then, if it even gets that far.
And if,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I could, Mr. Chair and Commissioner, we do not have,
Oh, wait, if everyone could please mute their mics.
I'm sorry, we
Go
do
ahead.
not have the language in front of you reflective of what the motion just was. So if you vote to support that, I would then respectfully request that I draft that language and bring that back to you to confirm that that's what would be moving forward.
I think that whatever happens today, all of them should be consolidated back for us to verify that that's what we want ratified.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, if none, roll call, please. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Director King, did you want to say? I'm so sorry, sir. Go ahead, sir. I missed you. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just to be clear, we're capping the total membership of the board at 15 based on a pro rata of 250 resident population per member. Is that correct?
No,
No.
we're maintaining it at 250 at this point. I'm sorry, we're maintaining it at 15 at this point, with the trigger being at 250,000 population plus a major fraction. So that if we switch to 250, it would theoretically revert back to 11. We don't want to do that. We want to maintain the current composition and the supermajority. It just won't grow until it hits the 250,000 mark. With the long division.
But we're capping the total board membership at 15.
No, we are maintaining the current board. We're not capping it, we're maintaining.
So, Chairman Vera here, so if I may, so what we're doing is we're keeping the composition as is, and we're saying that instead of having an additional member for 150,000 people, we're increasing that another 100 to 250,000 so as to limit the future growth of the board. That's all that we're doing.
So there's no cap. So theoretically, the board membership could grow to any larger number, really, correct?
But much slower.
Okay.
Just as a general point of information.
Go ahead, sir.
So Hillsborough County has 8. So then what we're saying is that Hillsborough County's population, as it continues to grow, would not get another representative. And I just want to be clear about what our math is. Since we have 8 right now, are we saying that they won't get another one until over 2.125 million population?
Yeah.
Okay, and then we're saying that, Plant City and Temple Terrace are just going to be at 1 for several decades, so.
Well, not Plant City.
Well,
Plant City's not in the mix.
Plant City's out, that's right, they removed themselves.
Yes.
And then the city of Tampa won't get another one until their population caps 625.
No, 625, right.
Is that what this major fraction thing is?
Yes.
I didn't, okay. Okay.
Okay, unless if there's any further discussion, roll call, please.
Director Cameron Cepeda,
No.
Director Hartfield, Director Henderson,
No.
Director Hobbs,
No.
Director King,
No.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
No.
Director Miller,
No.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebrick,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Chair Vieira,
A stubborn yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Wallstall.
Yes.
1, 2, 6.
This is Gary Hartville. I'll vote yes.
Thank you. Hartfield. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8 yes, 6 nay. Motion passes.
Thank you, board. Okay, next we go to our second topic, which is board involvement. Do we need, we do need a motion to forward this today if we wish to, correct?
Forward, which
Okay.
this.
The second topic of board involvement, correct?
But what I heard was the request from the directors that after we take whatever action we take here today, that I accumulate that language and bring it back to you for full approval before it moves on.
And I'm referring to the topic number 2, which I see Mr. Schisler shaking his head. Do you wish to discuss it so that we can?
I guess my only thing, is there any questions from any other directors to kind of what the intent was?
Recap it, please.
What the intent was, or any questions for clarification?
And board member Mechanic, sir, I saw you there speaking. If you could.
Can you just can somebody recap
And-
what item number 2 is?
Yes, sir. And for board members, whenever folks in the virtual world want to speak, just raise your hand virtually. And if you can't, I don't see you because sometimes they don't, just let me know. But board member Schuster, go ahead, sir, if you want to summarize, or Ms. McLean.
Sure. Director Mechanic, this would be in Article 4, Section 1. What it's doing is it's aspirational. The language is each member is encouraged when appointing its representatives to director to acknowledge the commitment to attend meetings to assure the board can achieve their required quorums, to take action, and to participate on at least one committee to the board. The members, when appointing representation, shall also consider the qualifications such as any relevant subject matter expertise and directors that would assist the authority in accomplishing its obligations. There's also in Section 2, in Article 5, Section 2, the committees of the Board of Directors. And I am going to read this onto the record because it was summarized onto the slides. The chair of the board of directors may create standing and ad hoc committees. The chair shall have the authority to appoint directors to a committee. Each committee shall have no less than 3 members and 2 alternate members to ensure a quorum for committee meetings. Each director, this is the major change, each director shall serve on at least 1 term on a standing committee. The members of the committee shall elect a chair and vice chair of the committee. So in summary, it's to commit each of the directors to serve on a committee. It's also the aspirational goal for the appointing member to consider any relevant expertise when they're appointing him.
Okay, thank you, Madame.
I'll move that particular item.
Okay, we have a motion by board member Mechanic,
Second.
and we have discussion. We have a second by board member Hobbs. I saw board member King, and before board member Miller, you had your light on. Did you want to speak, or? Okay, just making sure I saw the light on. Board member King, go ahead, sir. Okay.
Actually, I have a different point to bring up after this. I'm out of sync.
Okay. Okay, do we have any discussion on this motion?
Make one quick comment.
Yes, sir.
The amount of subcommittees that we have should probably be analyzed. If we're going to start making this a requirement, things much more ad hoc. Many people are volunteers, probably losing money by having to come here that are not elected. They're appointed, and thank you for your sacrifice. So starting to require them to do even more additional volunteerism is a challenging aspect. Encouraging is one thing, but requiring, I think, is totally different. And the commissioners ourselves, I can't speak for the councilmen, but we are just drowned with different boards that we are constitutionally required to sit on. So sitting on more than their normal board is almost an impossibility with our schedule. So I just want to make that statement, and I'll support it.
Thank you, Vice Chair Wosel. Okay, roll call, please, unless there's any further comments. Go ahead.
Director Cameron Cepeda, The mic not working.
Yes.
Director Hartfield,
Yes.
Director Henderson,
No.
Director Hobbs,
Yes.
Director King,
Yes.
Director Knight,
Yes.
Director Mechanic,
Yes.
Director Miller,
No.
Director Myers,
Yes.
Director Niebrick,
Yes.
Director Schisler,
Yes.
Chair Vieira,
Yes.
Director Williams,
Yes.
Director Wallstall.
I leave no one behind, so no.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. Okay, board, now we have our final issue, which is the millage rate. And what I'll do is I'll let Ms. McLean, if you wanted to speak about this, I'll let, and just, yes, sir, Director King, 1 second, if I may. I'll let Attorney McLean speak on it, then Board Member Schisler. And then what I'd like to do is just to make sure, because I know we're going to have a lot of opinions on this, is we're going to have one round for everyone to speak, and then we'll have second round. And not everyone has to speak, of course. Director King, go ahead, sir. And you're muted, sir. Director King, there you go.
Yeah, Commissioner Miller raised an interesting point when she asked whether or not we were operating under Robert's rules. The HART Board has never formally adopted Robert's rules for the purposes of conducting its public meetings and business. I would like to propose that we do so now as part of this charter revision.
I mean, I think we're doing fine as is, frankly, but
That's
and
been
Board
1,000
Member
years
Myers.
ago.
I make,
And Board Member King, if I may, wait a second, just wait a second. Board Member Myers was speaking, and then you can go, sir, after that. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We adopted that about 3 or 4 years ago when I first got on the board. Yeah.
well, my understanding from talking with Ms. McLean is that sometimes we do and sometimes we don't.
So
And
let's.
I didn't particularly like that answer, and I would like it formally written into the record that we do operate under Robert's rules.
Let me ask Ms. McLean, do we operate under Robert's rules?
I was not aware that we had adopted it officially. We adhere to the basic framework, but if we really drill down on Robert's rules, we don't follow it.
Okay. Perhaps, I mean, I have no objection to following them if you want to make a motion on that after when motion time comes. I don't want to have a large discussion right now when we're been here for a while on whether or not to adopt Robert's rules on going forward. But if you'd like to make a motion on that, Director King, at the time, I'd be glad to support it, sir.
Thank you. I'd be happy to do so.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
I don't think we need to change the rules every time we get a new legal counsel. And this is what's happening now when, I almost call her name, Julia. Yes, we did that during her term of serving as legal counsel to make sure that we followed Robert rules. So if we're gonna do it every time we change the legal counsel, I mean, come on. And we get new members, but we just have to tell the new members, we're operating under Robert rules. That's it.
Yeah.
If I could.
And really quick, because I don't want to have a discussion on Robert's rules right now, but really quick.
It is in the policy. I just wanted to confer with internal counsel. It is in with the policies of the board policies to follow Robert's rules.
That's all we
So
need.
if we want to follow it more clearly, then we can do so. But I don't think that an action is required unless the board wants to elevate it and put it in the charter. That's not one of the things that
Yeah,
they propose.
I want to discuss the millage right now, frankly. So that's what I want to go forward on. So Ms. McLean, if you'd like to maybe introduce it, Board Member Schisler, and then we can go around and give thoughts. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. This is the third issue, and this is the proposal to increase the millage from the half a mill that is currently within the charter to the proposal is a full mill. Statutorily, you're authorized to impose up to 3 mills. It's in Article 6 and in Section 2, Paragraph A. So it would just strike the half and move it to 1 mill. And it has to be approved here, ratified by the members, approved by the county. If approved by the county and ratified by the members, then it would be placed on a ballot of general election, which would be in November of 26.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Schisler, if you want to kick this off, sir, you may.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. As I stated in my April 7th presentation, HART is at a very serious crossroads. We need additional funding. If we do not secure additional funding, come January 2028, there will have to be significant cuts, rollbacks, layoffs, cut back in services, and so forth. Everybody got the charts. Everybody has seen the numbers. We've gone through numerous audits, reviews. Even the comprehensive operational analysis supported this. We have got to figure out a way to do this. We've talked about ad valorem. We've talked about sales taxes. I've done research into sales taxes. I would like to, and I've done research. I haven't done much with the ad valorem because it is what it is, provided the property values don't tank on us in the next few years. But in order to just maintain, not grow, not get back to pre-COVID or get back to pre-mission max, we're going to be in trouble in 2028. There's no two ways about it. Specific questions or comments about it, and if there's questions we can answer, we'll do so here as best we can. But the clock is ticking, and the time is moving along quickly. So I support it moving to 1 mill, and I see a lot of problems with the conversion to sales tax. Maybe additional funding via sales tax I'd be willing to work with, but and throw my efforts behind that, but not a replacement of one with the other. At any rate, I'd like to hear what other directors have to say, but just keep in mind, this is a crossroads, and we are the HART Board. It is our responsibility to keep HART moving, growing, and going forward. And I would like to see us proceed in that manner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thoughts from board members, anyone? Board
Thank
Member
you.
Williams, go
Thanks.
ahead.
I was on the committee as well, and we had lots of discussion back and forth about what was the right thing to do. And my argument is this is feasible, and let the public determine what the outcome is. But the other aspect is I always believe you're not going to make a recommendation. You're not going to agree with it. You have to make a recommendation, and that's where you go back to the committees and understanding that some of the seats are underserved or have not, at least from a committee standpoint, have not been able to give feedback to that committee. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else, including in virtual land?
Chair Vieira.
Yes, sir. Board Member Hartfield and Board Member King. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. I served on the committee with Director Schisler and Director Williams, and I believe Director King. Tremendous amount of discussion, tremendous amount of thought went into that. As individual members of the community, as you talk about increasing potentially property taxes or ad valorem taxes, with the cost of living these days, the recommendation is not taken lightly, because we as individuals, members of the community, are impacted as well. But we have an organization who support, we have a commitment from the governing bodies to make sure that we're doing the right thing as it relates to HART. So that being said, we took our personal interests out of the equation and made sure we were making or trying to make the best recommendation and the best suggestion for the organization. So that being said, it's almost a reluctance to want to increase your individual expenses because at the end of the day, it boils down to your bottom line and your ability to have disposable income for your home and for your family. But we have an organization to serve, and we had to take our personal interests out of it. I apologize for belaboring the time, but I wanted to express that.
Thank you, Board Member Hartfield. We appreciate you, sir. Board Member King, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Chair. In many ways, this is a double-edged issue. HART, like many of the other regional transit services around the country, are not overly burdened with money. And frequently, we're always operating behind the curve. We have this one opportunity to step forward and increase the amount of money that we have available to us directly from our own constituency. And at the same time, it becomes a multiplier when you're going to the state and asking for state and as well as federal funds. However, the other side of the coin is that we need to be careful not to unduly burden the taxpayers with additional taxes that they have a hard time affording. And I'm not thinking just about residential taxpayers, but also the businesses within the community who also bear a share of that tax burden. So this is the dilemma we're at. Are we going to do what we have to do in order to be able to get the funding for the heavy maintenance facility and the extra buses that we need, and to implement the course of action plan that's been presented to us at whole or in part? And if so, what kind of burden are we putting on the taxpayers when we do it? In the last election, there were 4 millage changes that were on the ballot. 3 of those 4 lost. And I don't think there's a great deal of sentiment with the public, particularly out in the county, for more tax burden. But this is where we're at, and this is what we have to decide today. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Director King. Anyone else in virtual land? And then Board Member Myers, anyone else? Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Board Member Mechanic, then Board Member Myers.
You can go ahead.
Yes, sir. I think I have previously stated that I'm not in support of an ad valorem tax increase, primarily because I don't think the public will support it. But and at the same time, I also know, having lived through it, that we did pass the sales tax in a referendum. The public did support that, and in theory considered support it again. We would have to obviously rewrite the ballot language to conform with the legal issues that were found to cause the previous referendum to be legally infirm. But we could fix that, and we could propose a sales tax. But I'm not here. This agency desperately needs funding of any sort, any type, anywhere. And so I am not going to stand in the way of someone. If this board has a consensus to do an ad valorem tax increase or a sales tax, any increase in revenue, I will support that effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Myers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that we all know how we're going to vote on this issue, whether we're going to vote it up or down. We have been talking about this for years. So I think now's the time that we take some action. I'm going to move for approval to change the half millage to 1% millage to move forward.
Second.
Member, we have, and Board Member Hartfield, before you went in, Board Member Knight seconded that. So motion by Board Member Myers, seconded by Board Member Knight. Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Niebuhr, go ahead, sir.
Mine was a comment prior to the motion, and that is to say that this change, as I understand it, simply allows us to collect up to 1 mil to support the agency. It doesn't necessarily mean that we would. And given that it has to go back to the membership and to the voters, it's a very long pole in the tent, given the constraints on the agency as described earlier by the CEO. This doesn't mean we're increasing taxes via the ad valorem. It just gives us the ability to do so should it pass once it makes it through the next steps.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir. Board Member Wilson. I always go last, so I don't want to interrupt.
I didn't say anything in the pre-discussion because there's no sense in repeating for debate. I think that this is an exercise in futility. I think that it's kind of political theater, but I have good news for everybody that wants to increase the millage rate for transit, particularly since we have now said, I think, 7 times that increasing the millage rate will in no way increase the service to the unincorporated area, which is something that we, the county commissioners, have to take into consideration, especially considering the Fair and Equal Treatment Act. But the good news for everybody else is that the 2 jurisdictions that are going to see the most benefit from this, the city of Tampa and Temple Terrace, they do not need our permission, and they do not need you, the voters' permission. They can raise their ad valorem tax to increase their transit at any time during their annual trim millage rate. They don't need to go through any of this. They don't need a charter referendum. They can go and by a majority vote of their body, they can increase their millage rate on their constituencies to improve transit. And I've just cleared numerous hurdles for you to get the increased transit that you want in the areas that are going to benefit from it the most. That should be something that we're all celebrating in glee. City of Tampa can go vote on it, and Temple Terrace can go vote on it individually. They can increase their millage rates by a $0.5 mil more if that's what they want to increase service to their area, and it can be done. They can increase that funding on September the 30th of this year when they send it to the property appraiser's office on how much they want to assess from all of the homes and businesses in their jurisdictions. And then they can apply that increased funding back to HART for increased service in those areas. And there we go. There's no need for us to go through any of this exercise and wait for it to get to Hillsborough County Commission, where it is almost certainly going to die, because the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners consistently reduces property taxes and burdens on our residents. We do not increase their cost of living and their cost of doing business, which is exactly what an ad valorem tax is. So whatever we decide here today, again, it's an exercise in futility, and your appropriate city councils can easily and quickly get this done for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, board member. Anyone else? Okay, I'll give my thoughts really fast, if I may, before we vote. We've had a lot of journeys as a board, especially since CEO Drainville came in, where I think we've done a lot of things together whenever it comes to personnel issues and dealing with some of our structural issues on the board. This is one that comes down to philosophy as opposed to how to run personnel things. And we're going to have disagreements here. For me, this is about just doing what's right. And when I take a look at the way that we fund our mass transit system here, the right thing is to ask for people to do more. That's never easy as an elected official. There are tax increases I voted against. There are some I voted for. But here, I think it is undisputed that we are running a transit agency in Hillsborough County that is woefully underfunded. And as board member Schisler has said, there's no other way to properly fund this. There's no other way to properly fund this agency. I wanted to, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, salute board member Schisler and all the folks in the committee who have done so much to put this forward. Folks can say, well, it's going to die in the county commission. Maybe that's the will of the voters in terms of the county commission. We all respect that. But sometimes you got to also take a stand. And sometimes you got to say, you know what? This option exists. And the option exists through elections. It exists through folks that you support on different legislative bodies, et cetera. You got to take a stand. Why? Because political demographics, political wills of voters may change, and the politics of states or counties, et cetera, may change, but the needs of people still exist there. And the needs of people that drove almost 60% of people in 2018, which, if you know Florida history over the last 10 years, almost seems like ancient history, doesn't it, with how much things have changed? But those needs not just still exist, but they've actually gotten more acute in a post-COVID Florida, where the cost of living has risen just tremendously. For me, this is the right thing to do on paratransit, for everyday working families and so forth. I always say this whenever I mediate cases, that there's things that are black and white, and then there's things that are gray. There's a lot of right and wrong here. There's a lot of gray. We're asking people to pay more. I don't deny that. I will stipulate to that. Number one, that's not easy. It's not easy on people's paychecks. We hear things on our good friends from East County. Something that I'm very, very respectful of. I spent a lot of time as a kid in Brandon. I love East County a lot, grew up in Temple Terrace, love the Brandon, Plant City area a lot. That's certainly something that if folks want to come up with different ideas, we can increase service and increase involvement in East County. I'm 100% for that. I'm 100% for that. There are so many people who could benefit from expanded transit service in East County. So for me, I would actually take that as a challenge to do better for East County, an area that is ignored. I sit here, I represent the city of Tampa, but I also look at all of the county, including our friends at East County. The overriding principle for me is not the 400,000 people in Tampa, it's equity and fairness and the right thing to do, including for our good friends in East County. And I obviously respect that 110%. And the big thing of this is, we would be asking voters to vote on something. And a lot of people, I live in New Tampa, a lot of New Tampa does not use mass transit, does not use HART. I would be going out to my constituents and saying, please pay more money for people who need it, to look beyond 33647 or your zip code, and to look at that person with a disability that uses paratransit, the person who's going to their doctor's appointment, the senior citizen who's getting home. That's what I would be asking people to do, is to look beyond themselves and to look at people who need help. That's the ask I'd be willing to do as an elected official. That's why I'll be voting yes for this. Because again, it may go down ultimately, but sometimes you got to take a stand on things. That's my view. Unless any other members' comments. Board Member Miller?
I'm leaving my mic
Oh.
because it won't turn on.
Okay. You've been confusing me today with that. Okay, great. And no one in virtual land? Okay. Motion, please.
No.
Director Cameron Sapita. Director Hartfield.
Yes.
Director Henderson.
Reluctantly, yes.
Director Hobbs.
No.
Director King. Director King.
No.
Director Knight.
Yes.
Director Mechanic.
Yes.
Director Miller.
No.
Director Myers.
Yes.
Director Niebrick.
Yes.
Director Schisler.
Yes. Yes.
Chair Vieira.
Yes.
Director Williams.
Yes.
Director Wallstall.
No.
Motion passes.
Okay. Thank you very much, board. And I guess that's it, correct, for the charter issues today?
Yes, sir. Could I ask for a clarification? So I will be taking the actions that were approved here today, creating the charter in whole, bringing it back for the board's review, and before it moves out to the members for ratification.
That is board membership. Yes, sir.
Just one point of clarification. Now, that would be just to approve the verbiage in the document, not relitigate or re-legislate the content, correct?
Right, to check my accuracy, right.
Board member Cepeda, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I just have a quick question. So this was something from earlier that we were discussing. But for the committees that we're going to be on, can they be virtual? What is a question I should have asked earlier, but since so many people really, have the schedules are, like already been mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
But yes, officers.
So I think that's a great, committees being virtual, and Chisler, the night.
As long as there's enough people to get a quorum, virtual participation is
Yeah.
fine.
Awesome.
We have directors who have to do that way. So, as long as they just, somebody be on the committee, we need help, that's all.
Thank you.
Good
Thank you.
question.
Thank you.
Board
Yeah,
member.
we had talked about that, you remember early on, a few years ago, and that's one of the problem we had, in person, not being able to get quorum and virtual, and that's a real dire emergency or something like that, but it's getting way out of hand. You really need to look at it, because we can't operate without it. And when you really look at the committees, the volunteers is pretty much represented real well. But the ones who are really doing it for, that need to be, might want to consider getting on some of these committees to make it better.
And if I may, I think to board member Cepeda's point, I think that a lot of county commissioners have a lot of boards they sit on. So I guess to maybe mitigate the slack is what you're asking, but yeah, so very well taken. Okay, board, HART board committee reports are in section 9. And actually, Ms. McLean, when do these come back to us?
I'm sorry, when does the
The ones
charter-
that we passed, yes, ma'am.
I can have them ready for next month, June? The June
Board member Schisler, is that? Okay, great. Just for the public and board member Schisler, thank you. So HART board committee reports are in section 9. Report from HART board representatives are in section 10. Did someone say something? Okay. Information reports are in section 11. Is there any old business? Is there any new business? Okay. Thank you very much, HART board members, for all your input and your hard work today. We appreciate you. This meeting is adjourned.